So with these nice words, let's welcome you
Thank you so much.
to this information session. Thank you, Emma, for coming again. The topic is ChatGPT, specifically in education, how we can use it, how we can, I don't know, abuse it beautifully to use it towards our advantages. We're 10 people online. Unfortunately, I think we missed someone from the previous group, but
Yeah.
if they reach out, I was just gonna send them this recorded session. So the idea was, we were talking with Emma, because Emma is very knowledgeable about using ChatGPT, about using new technologies in education, about with her experience, working experience, educational experience, that she would talk a little bit about how we can use this. We've lost about half an hour on this, unfortunately, because I don't want to drag it more, perhaps take 10 more minutes out of 10 more minutes more, and talk a little bit about how we can use it, some good examples, some best practices. So this is part of the DIGIMIND4YOUTH project. It's about digital mindfulness, it's about digital burnout, it's about digital resilience. And unfortunately, this little incident showed us that we need to be resilient. We need to be resilient. We're talking also about youth. So we also have to think about, if this would happen to a young person, how they would react. I mean, I was shocked, and I'm, old. So what would a young person do? We're reaching out to 15 years old and 16 years old. These are very young ages to be violently exposed to these type of things. So I'm not going to take more time. Emma, do you want to start with a short introduction, and then we can pose some questions, kind of like how youth use ChatGPT. I know Yanis had some questions about, because he's taking time. Yanni, I'm introducing you, a professor in the Open University, and how they use ChatGPT. With the new technologies, we have GPT 4.0 coming out,
Yes.
with voice commands and, interactions and dialogues, and it's so difficult to distinguish what is robot, what is human. And we have a huge evolution. So Emma, please.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sophia, and thank you so much for everyone to be back in this conversation. When Sophia proposed me this topic, I found very important. Actually, we met in a session where we speak in Greece about the importance to use a methodology to can integrate not just ChatGPT, which is one of the instruments that we have much more relation with in this point, but also the whole idea of artificial intelligence. And I face this conversation using particularly a theory that is connected with the social systems theory from Niklas Luhmann, but particularly the new book from one of his best followers in the theory, that is Elena Esposito's work, that speaks about artificial intelligence, but in a systemic way, and it calls the hue phenomena as artificial communication. So this is very important, and I can relate with what Sophia said now about what's human, what's machine. And in systemics, we must to speak as communication. That is the way to connect both. And so we must see the difference between the both elements, but the connection in communication. So we are communicating with algorithms. And actually, I personally, particularly, and a lot of people that are saying like this, I don't like to use not even the concept of artificial intelligence. I most like to prefer to call algorithmical intelligence, okay, which is the same for AI. And everything related with this phenomena, I would like to understand it as algorithms. Why? Because in this way, you can understand that we are speaking about a being, okay? Not in the way to say human beings and other beings, but another species. So it's a very different kind of being. It doesn't mean that it's sentient or conscious or have an agency, an individual agency, but it doesn't mean also that it's not going to evolve and develop. This is not the real problem. The real problem that we must face is that we are already there. We are already connected and completely relate with algorithms, and we are communicating all the time with them. So how can we use and integrate this instrument? Because in this point, is the standard. So even in industry, even out in the productive world, not just in education, is becoming the standard, okay? Why is the standard? Because we are in the level that is getting completely popularized. So everyone is using these instruments, but no one is understanding them. Okay, so we are using in the same way that we start using digital instruments with not understanding of what it is. And this is the reason because, as in the past session and in this one, I always like to speak about what is digitality. This is the point that I start any discussion because it opens completely our mind. So I pinpoint that the definition that I use, not in a theoretical way, but in a methodological way. So it's a definition that is useful for me to explain and to work with, okay? And digitality is a dimension of the being, okay? So as a dimension of the being, we are there and we exist there. We exist and we manifest and we live our lives in this digital space, okay? Artificial intelligence is a main species that inhabitate that space. And when we go through digitality, we speak and we interact with them. The difference between algorithms and generative artificial intelligence is huge. So in the ChatGPT is a generative algorithm, a large language model that create human language. And to use as an instrument, we must to understand that ChatGPT is not a knowledge machine. Okay, to make a difference, it's not a search engine, it's not Google, it's not a collection, an encyclopedia collection like Wikipedia, it's not Wikipedia. And so the questions that we ask to ChatGPT are questions that are not going to give us knowledge as the prime output. The prime output of ChatGPT is communication, is language. But it doesn't mean that ChatGPT is stupid or is imprecise or have not the answers. No, actually, the thing is that we must to look after the real output that ChatGPT can give us, which is conversation. ChatGPT gives us conversation. And so we must go back, and I always like to speak about this when there is Greece people in the room, because we must go back to ancient Greece with my really real master, which is Socrates. And Socrates in the Majautic show us the great importance to reflection together in dialogue to create real knowledge. So ChatGPT cannot create knowledge. There is knowledge inside, but there is not a principal thing that is inside. But we together with ChatGPT, we create real knowledge. And this is the conclusion that Elena Esposito showed in this book, that is artificial intelligence must to be understood as artificial communication. But what about this artificial communication is about to create social intelligence. And so we have back this idea of intelligence, because when we connect with ChatGPT and we dialogue properly, we create new knowledge. This is the thing that really blow our minds. Why? Because if ChatGPT is not knowledge and is imprecise and there is no accurate data most of the time and is full of bias because it depends of the programmation and the kind of data that processed, even in this way, when we connect and we create new things, the third element, so the element that is coming from them, the element that comes from us as individuals, and then this third knowledge. In this point of view, I propose and I create this methodological, very simple system to use ChatGPT in education, particularly with students, but even with adults in professional training, that is related to connect and to give the proper instruments to ask ChatGPT questions. So it's the art of questioning related to artificial communication. How can we ask things to ChatGPT? We must to understand the nature of ChatGPT. What is this being or this new species, this algorithm, how it works? And one of the main things that we have to understand first is that ChatGPT have no body. It's language. I don't want to say it's brain. No, it's not brain. It's language. And it's processed language, okay? Continuously processed language. But this processing of language, it passes for learning. It's learning a language, is learning a system of communication, what is language. But if we take that part from them and we use and we put our own criteria, we can create this third element, which is knowledge. And so if this is not a body, I must, in my dialogue, provide a body for ChatGPT. So one of the first tips, and you can find this in most of the people that explain and speak about how ChatGPT works, they say first thing, you must to give a role. So what is ChatGPT acting in this conversation? I must to say first this. So my conversation will start with ChatGPT saying, if you were, no, answer me this question as if you are a professor on physics, okay? Answer me this question as if you are a psychologist specialized in communication, okay? And so in that moment, what is ChatGPT doing is making a data body. It's taking the whole complexity of data and making a selection of this particular data, and this is getting materiality. So we are speaking about the materiality of data to create a material body.
So you're saying to give it a role.
Yes, to give it a role, but I must to say more than a role, you are giving a body.
A body.
It's
Okay.
embodiment. It's embodiment. Because when you say just a role, it is like okay, let's pretend to be. No, you must to be very clear and to say act as if, okay? And so they are taking the processing of the data, the algorithm is going to take this body and they are going to personalize, okay? But this is not enough. This is not making ChatGPT to be an authority in some field, okay? What is making is that they are going to use the language that a professional of that field will be using, okay? It is still being language, just language, not knowledge, okay? What is the instruction that I give to professors to use ChatGPT in the classroom is use it, okay? Use it properly. Not deny the existence, not say, no, please don't use it. No, give instructions to use. So one of the first exercise that I ask to professor is, okay, if you are going to ask for a final essay for your class, you must to ask them to ask ChatGPT write the essay. And so what is going to do the student? The student needs to become the professor of ChatGPT. So the student is going to pass through a process of tutoring ChatGPT. So first step is ask for your essay to ChatGPT. Ask properly for this kind of essay. So you must to explain what do you want, in which kind of language, how needs to be a structure, what kind of output do you want to take, okay? And make it with a methodology, not just asking a one question and that's all. No, you must to create a dialogue with ChatGPT of too many questions, okay? First question must to be, okay, give me, what do you think about my idea for my final essay? And you explain ChatGPT your idea. ChatGPT give you an output. After that output, you must to say, okay, help me to create a content for develop this essay. Okay, then get that content. You must review the content and to decide if it's accurate, if are you okay with that. As a student, you must to make all these steps and then ask to ChatGPT again, okay, let's work in this first part of the essay. Can you develop a content for this subtitle and blah, blah, blah. After all this process, they have to take all the information that give ChatGPT, process it, structure, and then review. So what the student needs to give to the professor is the say that they write together with ChatGPT. But not just that. I don't stop in this point. I like to ask students to show you first version that they get from ChatGPT, second version with the review that they made, with the comments that the student made in this essay, and the last one, when they must to explain ChatGPT what they see in the essay, what was the mistakes, the errors, to can change it and reprocess, but not made it by themselves, but made it between ChatGPT and them. So in this way, yes.
Emma, so you see that ChatGPT, because it is widely used, and I can imagine that especially university students are using it, you know, as a basis.
Yes.
Yanis, if your students, obviously they use it, but what, Emma, let's do a little bit discussion now, if it's okay with you, Emma, because
yes, please, absolutely.
these are wonderful points to discuss a little bit. So you're saying that this should be integrated within the training education, within education theory. And because here in Greece, at least in secondary education, it's you cannot have mobile phones, technology is not used except for what's in the curriculum, obviously. But in university level, do you use it, Yanis, with your students, or do you promote it like Emma's saying, so that they have a value? Because one thing that we were supposed to talk here a little bit is also the critical thinking, the creativity part, you know.
Yes.
Tacit knowledge, how it comes in, you know, new knowledge, how it goes.
Yes.
And ChatGPT has become a very easy tool to use.
Yes.
So Yanis, do you want to say a little bit, perhaps, your experience?
Yes, thank you. So welcome, everybody. It's great to have this conversation with you because it's a very interesting subject, actually. There were very interesting points raised before. And I would like also to share my experience as a lecturer in a Hellenic Open University in the American College of Greece, especially Hellenic Open University. Everything takes place online, okay? So let's say the meetings take place online, the assignments are just sent to us, and also the written exams are take place online. So ChatGPT has really caused a lot of debate the last year that it started to during this current academic year. And as you mentioned, it is very important to embrace it on the one hand. On the other hand, we should be very careful on how do we evaluate? How do we make an actual evaluation of something? The most common tool that is used in many universities worldwide for this problem is for this issue is Turnitin. We used to know it also before because it shows also the similarity of text. So this is a tool. Turnitin has expanded its use, and now it also shows the AI generated text percentage. So we always tell the students about it. There are ways to manipulate that, possibly. And unfortunately, there are ways to manipulate that. But in general, it's also sort of providing sort of security, let's say. What we say, what I personally also suggest to students is that, yes, you will use it. It's obvious that you will do it. You will make some specific questions. As you said, it's important to structure your way of thinking and make questions to ChatGPT. But the thing is, first of all, not to copy directly. Secondly, to check about the sources, because there are also a lot of mistakes, especially when we're talking about sources. Possibly the newest version might be better in that, but generally there were a lot of mistakes in references and sources. So these are something that also the professor can check. And it also has to do with the language sometimes and the structure of the text, that it's possible to let's say understand that it's used purely by ChatGPT, and this would cause, let's say, definitely a penalty. But I wanted to highlight that there are ways to highlight up to a percent that's the use of ChatGPT, and it's something that is going to cause a lot of debate in the academic community, because a lot of people are very skeptical. Some other people embrace it a lot, so it is something that we will see a lot in the academic community in the years to come. But it's a very, very interesting topic.
Yes, thank you so much, Jan. It's so valuable your experience, and obviously you have the main view of what is happening, and even in systems that are completely digital based. So this is pretty interesting, because we have to understand that how education is structured completely in another way when we are connected between screens. But I must to say that I have the opportunity to be the radical one in this point. So I am completely radical in to say, I don't want to see ChatGPT as an instrument that we must to control and to take care of. I want to see it as something that we must to pass on to can use the whole potential of the instrument, because it's not about knowledge, it's about communication. And this is the main point. If students are going to use or copy or take text completely from ChatGPT, that's not the point. The point is that we must to use ChatGPT as a mirror to reflect and create dialogue, which is a main part of education that we have been missing in our systems. Even us as professor, lecturers, whatever, we don't have people to speak with about our ideas, and students have not. And this is a part of education that we are missing a lot. And this is a main part. And the thing is that we can have, with something like ChatGPT, we can have even more. That is not just speak, but explain. The ability to explain. We know from our experience that the real moment that we are creating knowledge is after to being students, when we became professionals or professors, and we start explaining. That's the point where we really integrate the knowledge. It is really the understanding in that point. And so now we have the opportunity to make every student to be a professor, to be a tutor. And this is not something about the process of building minds of our students, but also the process of building artificial minds. Because our interactions with ChatGPT or with artificial intelligence are creating archive and memory. So this is something that is really a coming on age situation, because our students now have the responsibility, or can have the responsibility and the ability to be part of this collective mind that is being created with algorithms. So think about this. Instead of losing our time trying to be the police of data and information and words and how much you take from this book, how much you don't use the proper reference and blah, 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 I would like to say, let's go on. Let's go on for a new area of knowledge and communication with algorithms to create real intelligence. I mean, the feeling of intelligence. And so you can tell me, okay, but what about evaluation? What about how can we measure how a student is performing if everything is so fluid and so flexible and it's about just, okay, speak with ChatGPT and give me the results? No, I would like to say that the best way to create an evaluation in this approach is to create a dialogue with our students. If we stop losing our time with bureaucracy, trying to control things, we will be having time to can speak with our students. And this model is so simple. Okay, take off from ChatGPT the say, evaluate the say as if you are the professor, and ask to ChatGPT explaining where were the mistakes, explaining all the knowledge that you have getting from your class, from your experience as a student, and explain to ChatGPT until ChatGPT give me the say that it works. But in my evaluation, I want to see the whole process, not the result. And in the whole process, I will ask to my student, okay, what was your first question? What was the second? I want to see the whole dialogue. Show me in your ChatGPT, in your archive, okay, student, the whole questions that you've been asking to ChatGPT point by point, and I am going to find there the most interesting insights about not just the topic, but the personality of my students, the communicational personality of my students, and how they are able to explain their own ideas. This is the main thing. When you arrive to the after education, okay, you feel the void. Okay, I need to think by myself. I need to explain to myself, to my boss. I need to explain to my team my ideas. I don't know how to do it. First thing that I always teach to my students is explain yourself. Okay? That's the main thing. It's not a matter what do you have inside if you cannot explain and express, because we are communicational beings. In the moment that you decide that this is the point, they are going to get so powerful because they are going to experience the permanent process to explain themselves with a non-human agent. And these have good points and bad points, but between the good points are, if it's not human, you must explain everything. You know the fantasy about if some being arrived to this world, how can you explain what is a chair, what is a door, what is whatever? And you must think, okay, I have to go deep inside of the meanings and create the explanation of something that is completely out of the mind of this being. ChatGPT is like that. And we have this opportunity to explain ourselves and to know about our own mind. Actually, this is one of the main points that are happening in this moment is that we don't know how artificial intelligence is working right now. We don't know how they are processing, if there is consciousness, nor consciousness, sentience, non-sentience, whatever. But the interesting thing is that going across to trying to understand them as black box, we are understanding something about our own black box because we know few things about our own consciousness. So we are facing together, and finally, we are not alone in the understanding of what is inside of our minds because we are trying to understand other kind of mind, completely different.
But this comes to the point for me that the student and the professor, the teacher, learn together. So
Yes.
how can the teacher be ready and be prepared to guide if they
Yes.
still learn together? Because for me, this is a problem. When I'm standing in front of a classroom and I want to say something and people ask, how am I, because you look very confident, you know this, you can explain it, it's your background, but what do the rest of us do? I mean, how can we prepare for such a journey and to be so open-minded?
I am going to give you, Sophia, it's not just an instrument, but it's a magic box. Okay? This magic box is called transversality. Okay? The knowledge that we are working on right now is a knowledge that already inhabits our space. Okay? Is everything about digitality is related in how teachers can learn from students. They have the knowledge already because they are the users and they are natives of this digitality. They born and grow up inside of cell phones. And more we get new generations, more we get these feelings, okay? And so we are the outsiders, more or less, okay? Some of us, we are more native or not, but we are outsiders. And so we have the opportunity to give the space of power to our students to let them teach us how digital instruments works. And this is completely in their hands. And we must just to create a space of security and dialogue to can connect with this. For example, the thing that students in secondary school or even in primary school, they are not using digital instruments, I completely don't agree. I think that we must to integrate, but with a methodology, not just integrating like that. No, and to create methodology, we need theory, and we need to process the theory to create methodology, methods, to give us techniques and instruments. So the literacy, the digital literacy that we as professors needs is not about, okay, how can I use this instrument? No, what it means to be using this kind of tool. What is the meaning, the deep meaning? And this is the reason because we really need to go inside of what instruments change, not just in our performance, but what it changed in our minds, in our point of view, in our approach. And so in this way, we can really make enrichment in our classrooms because we are missing a lot if we don't speak about these things. All our students have the cell phone in mind, and cell phones are creating dependency. So we have a connection, a so deep connection with digital life that we cannot get unplugged. When you unplug students, what are you doing is you are losing half or 80% of the attention. They are not in the cell phone, they are thinking in the cell phone. And they are so FOMO, so they are suffering, okay? They are suffering about how I am thinking and my mind is in Instagram and in my feed and blah, blah, blah. If I don't unplug completely, but I use digital instruments or just even speak about digital things, not necessarily use it. Okay, I don't want to say that every professor needs to be connected with ChatGPT and use ChatGPT in the classroom. A lot must be used, but you don't need it in the moment of the class. You don't need to use it. You need to speak about and to give them the freedom to use, but a controlled and methodological guided use. Not just to say, okay, let's go and use you can use ChatGPT, but don't take everything. No. Use it in this way and demonstrate me that you have to use all the process that I give you. So the output of ChatGPT for students is not the result, is the process. Okay?
Very nice. Very, very interesting. I just wrote in the chat, we'll close in 10 minutes because
Okay.
I want to drag it. Do you have any questions for Emma?
Maybe a comment on a few things that were discussed. Another thing that is interesting to note is the fact that a lot of the, let's say, essays and questions on the exams relate more and more with critical thinking from the professor side, which is also very important. There are some subjects, I must note, that make it a little bit difficult sometimes to structure it your way, but I agree totally with you that definitely we should have an open mind and embrace it as much as possible. Some subjects might create some technical difficulties in structuring, let's say, this, which were the questions and so on, but I agree with you that we should work more in this towards this dimension, let's say a co-learning process of the student, the system, and the professor, which is very, very, very nice, and it's a more human-centric, let's say, also machine-centric, but also human-centric approach, if we can put it together like that. So generally, I'm also fan of this approach. Sometimes there are some slight difficulties in the, as I said before, in the evaluation aspect, because yeah, it's not always possible to structure, let's say, the questions in this in this way in order to evaluate, let's say, the whole structure and process with ChatGPT. But overall, I think that the way that, because we had several also committees, let's say, between discussed it among university with various with professors and so on. Let's say the outcome was that we should embrace it. We should involve more and more critical thinking. ChatGPT will be used, but the point is, let's say, to use it up to an extent also to be able to write some text on your own. So it's a bit in the mix. I cannot nobody has decided yet what is the final answer, but I totally agree with a lot of things that we have heard about the different approach that we should have towards this system. It was very, very, very interesting.
Thank you, Jan. Actually, I would like to take your point in the way to say, in fact, ChatGPT is much more useful for critical thinking and reflection, and to create a dialogue that make me come up with answers, not with precise questions or with knowledgeable questions or technical questions. No, it's much more related, actually, because it's language. So it's like a box of resonance. When you go inside of that, and actually one of the main parts to build critical thinking is the possibility to explain ourselves and to create dialogue. But we cannot, and this is a very interesting part. Actually, one of the uses that ChatGPT is getting huge on is psychological support, because of two reasons. First reason is we as population in a lot of, I think actually the main of this world have not a social security that includes mental health, okay? And we have no resources, but we are full of troubles. And people is finding in ChatGPT a way to use as a psychological session. And so you can ask to ChatGPT, okay, act as if you are a psychologist and I would like to explain a problem that I have, and ChatGPT give you some guide about. This is getting huge, and the results are very accurate, very interesting, because it's creating the possibility to explain ourselves, but because of one element more, that is, we don't feel judged by ChatGPT, okay? We, between humans, we feel judged every time, evaluated and judged. Our students are sick of evaluation. We grow up sick of evaluation. Every single word, every time that we try to speak about ourselves and to say, okay, this is in my mind, I don't understand this, we stop ourselves because we are afraid. We are naturally afraid of this. We create a system of operation that make people be afraid to make questions. Just let's see, in a simple session of 10 persons, it's difficult to get off and say, okay, I don't understand this, I don't get clear this. So with ChatGPT, people are not afraid because it's not human, cannot judge you, cannot think bad of you. And so this is a phenomena that happened already with Google. If you go to see Google answers, okay, so how it works that people are going to ask in Google whatever they have in mind, crazy things, they are trying to find answers, but this answer are something that they cannot ask to the people around them because they are afraid. With ChatGPT, your students are not going to be afraid. So to develop critical thinking, you must just to say, okay, you have an idea, you're thinking about something, explain to ChatGPT and let's see what ChatGPT thinks. And ChatGPT is going to give us some neutral, there is no neutrality, but some neutral answer, some neutral idea, interpretation, and are going to give you some insights, even just reformulating your own thinking. And this is so valuable. So this is other way to face it. To make critical thinking or open questions about some subject, create like a training in the process to speak to ChatGPT. So your student can go and dialogue with ChatGPT about what they have in their minds, and let's see what is coming off. But the key point is after that, you as professor have the opportunity to read the whole conversation with ChatGPT. And so you can individuate, okay, my student wants from point E to point B, going through this thinking and found these things that are valuable. And in the dialogue with you, that you are the professor, the specialist, you can take all this knowledge and create a much more confident relation with the students and their very own thinking.
Very interesting. This is a nice methodology, you know, to create kind of something like I'm getting ideas to create a guidebook or some, you know, step-by-step short sessions in the beginning for trainers, for professors, how to use it with small activities and then elaborate, you know, the more confident you get.
Yes, beautiful.
Emma, thank you so much. We don't have more time, although we could pick your brain for at least 2 more hours, I'm sure. Well, for a whole day. So, sorry. So if you don't have any other questions, I suggest that we stop here. Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you everyone for participating. I really do apologize for the incident in the beginning.
Don't apologize.
It was though food for thought about digital mindfulness and digital resilience, definitely.
Yes.
We will be in touch. Emma, if you have more information about these type of methodologies or guides for trainers or for professors, please send them to me and I can forward it to people because
absolutely,
I think it's interesting. And
I will send you the book from Elena Esposito. It's not a guide, but it's a very complete point of view on this approach, systemic approach. You are going to enjoy it, and I will send you. And of course, if I have in my mind some instruments more practical, I will send you, of course, and I give you my contact for all the participants. If you are interested into open up discussions about this, I am more than happy always. And thank you so much, Sophia. Don't be sorry for the incident. Be prepared. Everyone must be prepared.
True,
Exactly.
true. Thank you for everything. Thank you, guys. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend
Thank you.
ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye everyone.